Every craving you feel, and every single spark of motivation, traces right back to one chemical. So meet dopamine, easily the most misunderstood little molecule in your entire brain. Almost everyone calls it the pleasure chemical, but honestly that label is just plain wrong. Because dopamine isn't really about feeling pleasure at all. It's about the wanting. It's the powerful engine sitting behind your motivation, your learning, and your deepest desires. At its simplest, dopamine is a neurotransmitter, which is just a tiny chemical messenger. And it's manufactured deep down in some of the oldest parts of your brainstem, mostly inside two small hubs, the VTA and the substantia nigra. From there, long thin nerve fibers stretch all the way out across your whole brain. These dopamine pathways work a lot like highways, carrying signals from one place to another. One major highway is busy controlling all of your movement and your coordination. A second one carries your motivation and drives the brain's entire reward system. And a third quietly shapes your focus, your decisions, and your clearest thinking. So now picture a single neuron, a brain cell that talks in tiny electric sparks. Whenever that neuron fires, it releases a little puff of dopamine right from its tip. The dopamine then drifts across a microscopic gap between two cells, called the synapse. And waiting on the far side are special proteins we call dopamine receptors. They behave just like locks, and each dopamine molecule is the matching little key. The key fits in, the lock turns, and the next cell lights right up with a signal. Message delivered. Then almost instantly, the leftover dopamine gets cleared away again. It's quickly pumped back into the first cell and recycled, all ready for next time. And this entire chemical handshake happens in just a tiny fraction of 1 second. Millions upon millions of these tiny signals quietly shape every single choice you make. Now, here's the part that almost everybody out there gets completely wrong. Dopamine actually spikes before the reward ever arrives, not after you finally get it. It doesn't fire when you eat the cake. It fires the moment you first spot it. The chemical is really built for the anticipation, and not for the payoff itself. In other words, dopamine is basically your brain's own personal prediction machine. It constantly guesses, quietly in the background, just how good something is about to be. When that guess turns out exactly right, your dopamine level simply holds steady. But when reality actually beats the prediction, your dopamine suddenly surges way up. And when reality disappoints you instead, it dips right down below the normal baseline. That difference between guess and reality even has a name: the reward prediction error. It's the exact mechanism your brain relies on to learn what's truly worth chasing. A big surge tells you, remember this exact moment, and go and do it again. A sharp dip tells you, that really wasn't worth it, so skip it next time. This is learning itself, quietly written into the strange language of chemistry. But dopamine doesn't only teach you things. It also physically pushes you forward. It decides whether a given reward is actually worth the effort it takes to chase. With plenty of dopamine around, even a hard, boring task suddenly feels doable. But with too little of it, even the tiniest everyday tasks can feel impossible. This is exactly why your motivation can seem to completely vanish almost overnight. And it usually isn't laziness at all. It's simply your chemistry running low. In real experiments, animals with no dopamine left won't even bother to eat. They still genuinely enjoy the food. They just lose all drive to go and get it. So wanting and liking actually turn out to be two completely separate systems. Now, almost every habit you have is built right on top of a dopamine loop. The pattern is simple: a cue, then a craving, an action, a reward, and repeat. Over time, that cue all by itself becomes more than enough to trigger the craving. A buzzing phone, a familiar smell, or even just a few notes of a song. Your brain quickly learns the shortcut and starts firing off its dopamine early. And that is exactly why so many of your daily habits end up feeling automatic. Every single repetition carves that very same loop just a little bit deeper. And good habits and bad habits both run on the exact same underlying wiring. The brain honestly doesn't judge any of it whatsoever. It only ever reinforces. But that also means if you learn the loop, you can slowly rebuild yourself. Now for the dark side, because some things can badly hijack this whole system. Just think of drugs, junk food, gambling, and endless late-night scrolling. They all flood your brain with huge, completely unnatural spikes of dopamine. Spikes that are far bigger than anything you would ever actually find in nature. So the brain defends itself by quietly removing some of its own receptors. And suddenly all your ordinary little joys start to feel flat, dull, and grey. Now you need more and more of it just to feel anything close to normal. That slow downward slide is called tolerance, and it's exactly how addiction takes hold. And bit by bit, the endless chase itself quietly replaces the actual reward. But please, don't ever think dopamine is the enemy here. It's absolutely essential. The real goal was honestly never more dopamine. The real goal is balance. So try to choose slow, hard-earned rewards over the cheap, instant little ones. Sleep, movement, sunlight, and real human connection all genuinely help refill it. Give your baseline plenty of time to recover, and your motivation slowly comes back. So in the very end, dopamine isn't pleasure. It's really the pull toward it. And if GORP just fired up your neurons, follow along for more brain snacks.
Subscribe to GORP.